we have a progression we like to use to build people up to the supine hip extension leg curl, commonly known in the abbreviation of SHELC. And it starts with working a hip lift or bridge, whatever you prefer to call it. We'll start off with a bench, and we want to get set up so that we have our toes pointed up with our heels dug in, ankles are at 90 degrees, knees are at 90 degrees, hips are at 90 degrees. And we're going to take our arms and reach long, tuck the pelvis, and we're going to drive or dig our heels into the bench and use our hamstrings and our glutes to help bridge up. And we're going to pause at this top position. From here, we can cycle through one full breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then we are going to lower in control, keeping that heel pressure into the bench. If we need to, reset the pelvis, reach long through the arms, and again, drive into the bench with the heels, feel your hamstrings and glutes and abs as you bridge up, cycle through one breath, and then return down in control. Now, to progress this one in particular, we can go into a single leg hold at the top and lower. So both heels are dug in. We're going to bridge or lift our hips by driving our heels down, and then we could take one leg and straighten it. And now we're cycling through that breath, supported by the one leg, resisting rotation, abs are on, and then we're going to control the lower back down. And then we can switch to the other side. Heels are dug in. Both help lift up, extend the leg, resist rotation, cycle through the breath in and out, and then lower in control, ideally having the pelvis or both backs of the hips land on the floor together. Once we become proficient at that, we can start working on eccentric supine hip extension leg curls or eccentric SHELCs. And those can start using a stability ball or the slider. If we're using sliders, we can get our feet set underneath or in line with our hips. We're going to bridge up, arms are by our sides with palms up, and we're going to go down in a 3, 2, 1 tempo. Once you're straight with your legs, let your hips rest, pull the heels back in, and again, we're going to drive into the floor, hip extension at the top. You should not feel your back. If you do, that means you're using your low back to pull up and you're not using your heels and your glutes to push up. And again, we're going to lower 3, 2, 1, try and get the leg straight, and then lower in control and reset. If you don't have ValSlides or sliders at home, you can use a slide board. And the slide board's a little less friction. This also works if you have a t-shirt and a wooden floor or smooth tile floors, and you can do the same thing. Bridge up, lower in control, and then reset. Now, there's a point where you're going to start to recognize that this becomes easier. If it does become easier, we can start to attempt to pull the heels back in, keeping the hips in extension. And we like this variation to begin with the slide board because there's less friction than the sliders trying to draw them back in. So we will bridge up or lift up our hips. We're trying to create a straight line from our shoulders to our hips to our knees. Heels are dug in. We're going to lower in control, and then we're going to drive our heels back in, squeezing our cheeks, making sure the hips stay in extension. And we're going to do this for the number of reps that we have programmed. In our gym, we like to do anywhere from 5 up to 12, maybe even 15 reps, depending on what we're trying to achieve with the program. So again, we can do this with the sliders. It just takes a little bit more effort to pull back in. So we have arms by sides. We're going to bridge up, lower in control, and then I'm driving my heels in, and now I can feel a lot more hamstrings as I try and curl my legs or flex my knees back under my hips to make sure that I keep the hips extended. Again, we're lowering out in control, driving the heels down, keeping the glutes engaged as we come up. Once we've progressed here, we can start to transition to the stability ball. The reason we like this transition or progression next is because the stability ball is going to make us work on stability left and right. So now we have a very unstable surface, which is going to take a lot more intent to perform the exercise, but you're angled up higher, which makes the actual leg curl action a little bit easier. So feet are going to be about hip width to slightly wider apart. To make it easier, you could start with the ball closer to your calves. We're going to bridge up, and again, the action's keeping the hips extended and driving our heels into the ball, Our weight is on our shoulders, not on our neck, and then we're going to lower in control. If you need to, you can come back down, tuck the pelvis, bridge or lift up, find that kind of inverted plank position, drive the heels down, pull the ball in with your heels and your hamstrings, and then lower in control. If you don't need to reset at the bottom, keep the hips up, drive in, lower in control, and then bring it back into the next rep. And how do we make this more challenging? We take that ball and we move it further away from us. Bridge up. Now there's more instability left and right. I want to make sure I'm driving the ball through my heels and then controlling the lower as I reach out. Everything's tight and working at the bottom. The final progression on this exercise is setting up a jungle gym or a TRX, any kind of suspension trainer. We like to have the suspension trainers set up somewhere below the knee, about mid-shin to calf height. You're going to put your heels in the stirrups. We want a straight line right underneath the mounting point. Now there's a lot of resistance as we're trying to pull our heels in because the straps are trying to pull us towards the wall. Same thing, arms by our sides, hips up, curl in, try and hold it as the straps are trying to pull your weight out, lower in control. And again, try to keep the hips extended. It's all about that controlled eccentric lower on the way down. By far, the biggest challenge right here, typically the slide board and the stability ball are enough, but if you want to give that progression a whirl, let me know how it works out for you. If you have any questions, comment below.